This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. If you didn't catch yesterday's show, I ended it by saying it was day 4, which it was not day 4. It was Monday. But I'd been doing some work on day 4 stuff and then had Mark Jeffrey. Anyway, long story short. Really good show, though. Had Miles Berghoff on in the first segment of the show. Talks a little bit about kind of his game plan for the remainder of the year. Looking forward to 2026. And then Mark Jeffries jumped on to talk about his frog fishing adventures in Maine. And then I kind of went off the rails on a little bit of a rant. I don't really give hard personal opinions on the show intentionally, but man, there's just something about having Mark Jeffries on that it was a very Mark Jeffries-esque rant, but it is what it is. But one of the things that I wanted to do, and I talked to him before ICAST, and then I talked to him a little bit after, is get a guy on who's been to a lot of ICAST, a lot of industry shows, has had his finger on the pulse of the industry, both on the water, on the business side, and the boating side for, can I say 5? Is it 5 decades now, Rick? 5 decades, Rick Pierce? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I didn't want to age you, but I also didn't want to sell you short there. So 5 decades in the industry. And then I talked to him and found out he fished in the ICAST Cup, was there the whole thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about ICAST. We're going to talk a little bit about fishing. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. And then I get to go to Mike Myers Auto Body Work and pick up my 2500 HD after I hydroplaned the sucker a couple months ago, and then it's been in the shop for 3 weeks. So finally, Rick, today is the last day of the V6 convertible rental Mustang. I can't wait to have to step up to get in the vehicle instead of bend down to get in it.
Yeah, well, I don't need to be getting down to get in the vehicle right now.
Your note, I mean, like, the Bass Cat is legendary. I would say kind of like the sports car of the bass boat game. And like, you like to go, we were actually talking about this before air. I said that the older I get, I said the easier I run my boat. And you said, I don't. And that made me laugh. But on the water, we know you like the handling, the maneuverability, the sports car. Off the water, are you a sports car guy, like dry land 4 wheels?
I burned dirt when I was young. I'm that guy. I never rent one that I don't kind of know what it'll do. I'm your rental nightmare. That's who I am.
But like owning, have you ever been like, okay, like I'm going to have like a little toy on the side and it's like a sports car. Like Jeffries has a Mustang with 800 miles on it that he only takes out when it's sunny. It's never seen rain, and he only drives it where he knows where he's going to be parking it. Like, do you have like a little sports car that you wrote, or ever have like a TR6 or something back in the day?
No, I started young with a 68 Camaro 327. So
okay,
that was
that'll move.
First real car I owned. And then I went to, after moving on in life, I had a Grand Prix, and my dad wanted me to get a TA 6.6 back. This is right before Smokey and the Bandit,
Mm-hmm.
So the Blackbird was sitting there, and he wanted me to get that. And I got a 77 Grand Prix with a 301 in it. And he said, why didn't you get the Firebird? I said, Dad, because I knew I'd kill myself. And so knowing your limitations, it's the same reason I didn't learn to fly. I've flown, I can get a bird on the ground, but I'm no way a pilot. And Dad was always frustrated with that because I wouldn't learn to fly. And I said, I know my limitations. I mean, there's no place to pull over and go to sleep up there. And so.
Wait, you said, so if you could get a plane off the ground and land it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's way more than me. I wouldn't even know what to do. Is this, I looked it up. So this was, let me see if I pull the screen up right here. You had one of those suckers right there?
Yeah, I had 77 Grand Prix.
That's a 77 Grand Prix.
Yep. Yeah, I had that. That was the pimp car when I was young. It was my first new car. And then I went into, after the first life of marriage, we didn't have kids. And when we started out in life, I always, we went through the hard times of the 80s. So the first thing I bought new after that was a 85 IROC Z when they first came out with the IROC Z. So I had a 305 TPI IROC that would run like a hanked. I mean, it was one bad mother. And then I swapped that in for a 350 IROC Z in 89. And then I quit because kids came along and life changed. And you know how it is, Matt. Just you're getting ready to get there.
I am. That is news to me, Rick.
Yeah.
I get married October 25th. So I didn't know we had this in common. Now, maybe slightly different, but my first vehicle was a 1997 red Pontiac Grand Prix. A little bit different from that one you ran in this, isn't it? Just a tad.
Linda and I had a GTP, Matt.
Okay.
So I had a 97 GTP that we had one of our first cars was a 97 GTP, and that was white. And dude, that was a pretty bad running deal. But she had an Olds Royale, one of the Grand Am editions too. So I mean, bad cars are a lot of fun,
I feel like I had a Grand Am as well, but I feel like I got him in the tame sedan era of the Pontiac Grand Ams and Grand Prix, and not the fun era.
That GTP was turbocharged, and I don't remember what all, but it was a pretty good run little car, Yeah, a lot of fun. And her Grand Am edition, it was a part of the Grand National edition. It was hot. Yeah, it was real hot.
Have you ever towed a bass boat with a car? You see those pictures every once in a while.
There was a hitch and air shocks on that Grand Prix.
Really?
Yeah, it had a hitch and air shocks, did boat shows, delivered boats. It went all over the country with that Grand Prix. After that, had a pickup truck, in the 70s, and that was the day-to-day driver was a 3/4 ton Chevrolet. But it changes as you get kids and you go to the minivan syndrome and the suburban syndrome and soccer mom era, that whole deal, and you got to have room for them. And now we got grandkids, and now we are talking. We would love to have something in the garage. We just haven't figured out what to put in the barn. So we've got 3 boats, truck, and 4 4-wheelers in the barn. So we got plenty of stuff in there. Need to get another boat in there. I got 2 under the awning. I need some more boats, Matt. Got one.
What's your like everyday runner now? Like if you just go to the lake to go fishing, like with your stuff that's rigged out, what are you fishing the opens in? Like what's your 1A as of holy cow, it's the end of the month already, Rick. Where did July go?
To Leach, bud.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
What's your everyday runner right now?
Oh, Caracal STS is what I'm running. I needed to do a little work. We're working on some prop work with it, and we've been working with a company on some prop work. I talked to Billy McDonald last week at ICAST, a week and a half ago. He's ran a prop that we've been working on. So we're just kind of dialing things in a little bit on it and just kind of learning. And so I ran that. My favorite boat, this, everybody knows this. My favorite boat is an Era. I love an Era. I had a lot of fun at theater meeting the other day, and I wasn't going to talk boats much today, Matt. That wouldn't.
Well, we started out with cars, so we'll just get the propulsion vessels out of the way first, and then we'll get into it.
So my favorite's an ear, and I jumped in that ear and made one pass with it. I had James Caldemeyer with me, Lake Fork guide.
Yep.
James and I went running, and I said dropped him on a resort dock, and I made 1/2 mile spin out there and clocked off a high number on the GPS, went back, put it in the dock, and let everybody try to chase it. It was kind of fun to watch them climb in to try to beat the number, you know.
I feel like you just said the number because you don't really want to say the number.
Well, the number's mid-80s, but it's quick enough, yeah.
I'm trying to find a picture, like a current picture of Bill McDonald's Lucas Oil wrap. I feel like it is a top 5 wrap that suits the lines of the boat. Like, I love the way his boat looks running down the lake.
I think you did a good job on the wrap and the design. It kind of just morphed into it, but Billy's a good guy. He really works hard for his sponsors. He works hard for Lucas Oil.
Yeah, here's a little bit of it, but you can see like just the lines of it and the way with like the red, white, and blue and the Lucas, like it's like probably the best looking boat, I think, running the opens wrap wise.
Yeah, that's obviously Okeechobee, but yeah. It's no, he does. It's a good looking boat. The Lucas Oil wrap really looks good on it, and like I said, he works hard. He's a great guy. He's working for that oxygen company that's doing live well injection now down at ICAST, and we visited a little bit. But him and he rooms with Bohannon, the Pringles guy.
Yep. I've had him on the show. He talked about that deal. Great team deal that morphed into a personal relationship that he's able to maintain through multiple tours, through personal working relationships. Always see him at like Walmart's handing out sour cream and onion Pringles to kids, taking pictures.
Yeah, he's always got a case of Pringles to hand out. So he really works hard for his sponsors too. Those are 2 really quality acts, and Billy hasn't had the career that probably deserves in the business as far as the fishing career, but he's one that works really hard to stay in it.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned ICAST. Let's get into that. I guess that week kicks off with the ICAST Cup. Now, for those who don't know, it's kind of like a sub tournament. It's ran by MLF, I believe. Like they use their weigh-in procedures and all that. But like, what is the ICAST Cup, and what role does it play in the whole ICAST event? Because I've had a tough time of like putting my finger on like who's in it, why they do it, what it is.
Well, it's a fundraiser, I believe, for our BFF. But anyway, it is a fundraiser. It's a $200 entry fee or $250. Okay. I don't remember. It's a cool event. I mean, it's like 30 to 60 boats. This year, I think they had 34 boats or 36 boats or 33. I don't know. But it was a good event. I mean, not knowing Toho real well, just kind of going in there blind. And I had a sort of a non-angler partner that I took with me that was Zach Hutchison. And I really like Zach. He's a great guy. We booked this thing about 2 months ago. And Zach's a good friend. He was CFO of our Correct Craft company. And so I took Zach with me. And I called him and I said, about 2.5 months ago, I said, hey, dude, you want to fish this? And he said, man, I'd love to spend time in the boat with you. So hadn't really done it. And so Zach took a day off of work and he went half a day with me and we had a great day. But the day before, this was kind of a different deal because the day before Zach was announced our new CEO.
Oh, wow.
Incoming CEO. And I called him the night ahead and I said, man, dude, if you need to pull the plug on this and not go, I mean, I'll take Linda, I'll take somebody else, I'll call somebody, I got people I can call. I could call John or somebody else, to go fishing. He said, no, we're doing this. And I knew they announced that he was incoming CEO the day before at 9 a.m. And I wasn't expecting that, nor was he. I think he is an absolute excellent choice. He would have been my choice for that role, but I did not know that they would give him a really good fair chance coming from inside the company. And I think they were looking outside and evidently they decided on Zach, and I think he's great. But we had a really, really good day on the water. We caught several fish. Took us a while to get dialed in. I tried a topwater bite, and I couldn't make it gin.
Like the prop, the double prop, the devil's horse?
I tried we tried some poppers, some buzz baits, and I tried a hula popper, believe it or not.
Old school, like the old hula popper, or like a Gen 2?
We did a whopper plopper, so I had a assortment of things out,
Yeah.
I tried to jerk bait outside the grass lines just to get something early in the morning, and they just weren't firing on that. And then finally we settled down on a small worm and just kind of pitching the grass, and I caught a couple. We lost a couple of good ones. We could probably have weighed Matt if they'd have stuck somewhere around 13 pounds. No way we'd have had what Bakewell and the crew had or what everybody had that did well.
But 16-3, Bobby Bakewell won it. He's the one who won the Open, a Stingy Open on that little buzzbait.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. No, he's a pretty good stick. Had his dad with him. That's a good story to win with your dad. Zach caught one about 3.5 or so, and he was trying to pull it in the boat with the 8-pound line and the spinning rod. I reached down to get it, and the fish came off, and I got the hook in my finger. So we had an exciting day. But
do you've been in, like I said, five decades of this? Is there a better way to get to know someone than to get in the boat with them and spend 12 hours?
I've had a conversation with a boy out of St. Louis this week online, and when I was younger than you, I fished. My schedule's pretty undecided. I might have to be in Houston tomorrow, and it's not as bad now. But in the day, I couldn't dedicate to fishing. Let's just say, club events. And I would fish club events, but I couldn't dedicate every time, and I couldn't dedicate to a series. So you get a club team series, guys that get upset your age because you're fishing, both of us 35, 40 years old, 25 years old. And all of a sudden you look up and say, Bob, I can't make it this Saturday. I got to be in Texas, Oh my, they get mad. Well, we're in the points. We got to do this. We got to do that. And you're strung,
Mm-hmm.
So I always fished with, and this is really good. I fished with old guys. And I mean old guys at the time. Guys my age now are older. They'd be 60, 70. And it's a pretty cool deal the way I did it. And you talk about getting to know somebody. I really got to know those guys. And you talk about a breadth of knowledge. Dick Schumann was a fire chief out of Chicago. He worked Cabrini Green. I don't know if you know what Cabrini Green is,
nope.
But picture the worst project in Chicago.
Okay.
He worked Cabrini Green. He worked with a couple of other firefighters out of Chicago. I knew Ron Richter and a few more. But they all kind of retired down here. And this was like a little Chicago back then, And so you get a little breadth of knowledge out of them. Dick died of cancer. I fished an event here at home, and we got into some controversy because I pulled my boat out, but I took the money. I finished third in that fishing by myself because Dick and I had fished it, and gave the money over to Doris just because helped Dick's services, and came in straight from Gunnersville and fished the next day. And I missed that because Dick and I we were trying to really compete that year, and he wound up getting cancer, and it just wasn't going to come out of it, And but I fished with Schumann. I fished with Lou Breitbach, and you don't know Lou, but Lou was in the African Corps fighting Rommel. Lou had half a stomach, and he had landed on a grenade, had a Purple Heart, of course, saved his buddies. And there's just so much knowledge in those older guys I fished with. And you could pick the phone up on Friday night and say, hey, Lou, you doing anything Saturday or Sunday? You want to go in the morning? You want to go Sunday? And it was really, they were really not busy. They were sitting at home waiting on somebody to call, or they were going fishing on their own. And so you just pick the phone up and call them. So I think when you talk about spending time in a boat with people, you're right. It's the best way to do it. But what I enjoyed most is being younger than you even. And I've already classified your age as we already talked about all that.
I'm legitimately middle-aged, Rick. If you statistically look at it, I am dead nuts middle-aged right now.
Somebody told me yesterday that they read a book and it said, don't worry about it. It's just a number.
Yeah. I'll tell my niece that.
Go for it and don't worry about it. Don't celebrate age, celebrate birthdays, just put them behind you and go on. But I really enjoyed the anglers that I fished with that were older, and there's tremendous amount of depth of knowledge and what they've been through in life, and guys that had lived through the Depression, and they'd been in World War II, they'd been in Korea, they did Vietnam, and some of the Vietnam vets are only a few years older than me, 15, 10 or so, but couple of those guys, like one of the greatest anglers in our area was Vietnam vet, was a guy named Jimmy Stone. Jimmy and I won a team tournament on Bull Shoals years ago and fishing a longbill Rebel in April. And gosh, it was so good. We went back out and caught another limit, And so it's just those days on the water that you get to know somebody, and sometimes they're like Jimmy and they keep everything bottled up and you really don't get to know what's in the bottom of their soul.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are like Lou, that if you asked him a question, it would be like, golly, I mean, he'd tell you everything he knew, And Lou, we got stopped one day. We were coming back from an event, Merrimack Valley Bass Club deal out of Oakland. They used to do an annual December 1st event, first weekend of December. We were coming back out of Oakland, and there was a copperhead in the road that, 1st of December, you don't see a lot of copperheads. And this dude was coming across the road cold. And I mean, it was to this day the biggest copperhead I've ever seen. It was probably 5 foot long.
Holy cow! I've only seen them like
huge.
About like that.
It had a head as big as my hand, just about. And I mean, it was big. And I've only seen one other as big as that, and I saw it in another place. But anyway, Lou wanted to catch the dang thing. I mean, a scraggly old guy in his 70s that was ready to catch that copperhead, and I'm like, Lou, get in the truck, dude.
Oh man, it kind of brought up to my mind, like it seems like in the past 5 to 8 years, a lot less co-anglers, and I was looking, I just pulled up the Elite Series standings, I pulled up the BPT standings, and I could count 8 to 10 guys who started, that are in that 35 to 40-year-old range now, that started with illustrious co-angler careers in the back. Do you think it's important now, with you've got juniors where you're fishing with other junior guys, and then high schools where you're fishing with other high schools, and then college where you're fishing with other college, and then you jump, if you're trying to do this, you jump straight to the opens, and now you're fishing by yourself, or you're fishing alone? Like, do you think that that's like a missing link of getting a young guy in a local bass club where the old guys who have been around for 25 years that bitch and moan about the schedule, standing around a bass boat, drinking a Coors Light after every tournament, kind of teach them the ropes, and they get in the back and they see how it's done and they learn the respect and they learn the tournament fishing game? Like, do you think that's a part that is A, critical in a young angler's development, to spend time around guys who have been on the water for all that? And B, do you think that's something that needs to be infused back into the sport somehow?
I never drew a co-angler that I didn't learn something from, and I never drew a co-angler that wasn't my friend at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to that. And I think that when you look at what's happened to our sport, and it does go back to where you went, which is the club level. The club level has changed. Today we have club levels that fish as partners, and I think they've made it very difficult for people to enter the sport because you've already got your link. I think the old days of drawing a guy in your club and taking a guy you didn't know, got to know a lot more. And
I did that for 10 years. Like, I mean, I had 15 guys, and we would line up, and there would be 15 co-anglers on one side and 15 guys on the other, and I was 14 years old. They let me fish for them. And I promise you, at the time, all 15 guys standing on the right didn't want to draw me, but I was pumped whoever I got, whether it was, Darren or Wally or Harold or Louie or, Don, all those guys. But I'm thinking back, based on what you said, like, I'm learning something different from each one of those guys, whether it's respect from one, or how to fish from one, or how to run a boat from the other, or how to manage your day. Like, I'm learning something from each one of them, but I spent hours and hours in the boat with hundreds of years of experience during my most formative years as becoming an angler.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it, and I think that's true. One of my better friends in this game was a guy named Guido Hibden, as you know, and Guido I'd known since the
Mhm.
'70s fishing BCA. But where Guido and I really got to know anyone was we spent time in a boat drawing each other. And I sometimes hated to draw Guido, but Stella would tell me, "Oh man, I love it when Guido draws you. He catches the biggest stringers." And I'm like, "Yeah, take him to my fishing. Guido wears me out." Yeah, so we did that. We first one time we drew each other was at Lake of the Isles up there at Thousand Islands, and
Yeah.
Guido had my fish didn't fire real good, and Guido figured out how to make my fish fire, and he wore them out that day and had a good tournament. But I mean, I've had some good days. I've only had really one bad draw in all my years that I would call a bad draw. And it was just an unfortunate situation. It was a bad time for the man I drew, and we've since put that behind us and we're friends. But it was definitely not the best event for me. I've had other draws that started rough, but they ended well. Ken Cook was one of those that ended really well, but it started rough. But
How
we
did
were
it start
both.
rough with Ken Cook? He's like was the nicest guy. Rest in peace, Ken. Ken, Oklahoma, Mears, Oklahoma. There, actually got to spend some time on the water with him back in 2000 or mid 2000s before he passed away. But he seems like probably the easiest guy to get along with on the water, Rick.
Oh, he was great. We like I said, it just started rough. He wanted to go to Stony. The wind was going to blow, and we didn't go to Stony. He said Stony. We actually went past Stony to that area where he and Paul and the others fish Thousand Islands, and it started rough because I missed a fish, and Ken fired right over on it. I mean,
Yeah, that's
literally,
a
it
cardinal
was
rule. That's an
fire.
unwritten rule. That's like the number one unwritten rule.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And so he didn't even ask. He just, boom, it was gone. I mean, the fish boils on a spinnerbait. He's right loaded up, getting ready to cast, and he loads right over on it. And I'm like, okay, that's the way we're going to play today. And I didn't say it, but then about 15 minutes later, he misses one, and I boil over on it. And he says, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Same thing you did. That's how we're going to play, and that ended it. And we actually had a really good day. But I broke a couple of rods because of the way those lids opened in that boat. They slammed right down, and he kind of snickered. I said, "You knew that?" He said, "Yeah, I don't hardly tell anybody." And I mean,
What was he running?
he was running javelin at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, and those rods would open inside out. And
Yeah.
so your rod's laid right under the lid. And when you drop the lid, you get done getting something, you drop the lid and it snaps right down the rods. And
Oh yeah, that's interestingly thought out.
yeah, he snickered pretty hard when that happened, but I accused him of knowing it, and he kind of admitted he did.
Rick telling a story about a rod box from the guy who's not afraid to make a rod box that has any sort of angle on it. Mm-hmm. You've had the craziest rod boxes over the course of Bass Cat.
Yeah, well, we try to get them out of the way as best we can,
Yeah.
But that's the same. That's what that little bump's for on the side. That's another story. But I've had some good draws. I've had some one questionable draw, and it's worked out. But you go back to what I think is the root of the sport. That's where you started, Matt. You asked the question about the root of the sport. I think the sport started with team trails. Not team trails, with club tournaments and draws. Yep. And I think we're missing that today. And I think the draw concepts of the co-angler deal have changed that. I think the old draw pro on pro times have changed too, Matt. And I'm going to throw this out there a little differently. Back in the old days, I wasn't scared to leave my boat at a hotel. I would be scared to death to leave my boat at a hotel today. They know nobody's watching those boats. So you have 300 anglers show up to fish an open, and 300 boats go out, whatever it is, today. In the old days, we'd have 350 show up for an invitational, and half of them are sitting on the bank.
Yeah, you'd have 200 boats just sitting at a hotel.
Yeah, and you used to have 150 to 175 boats sitting at a hotel, and times have changed. I would be very concerned about the let's just say the less trustworthy part of our community, knowing that we're on the water fishing for 8 hours and my boat's sitting there on its own, you know, and that's
I've never had any issues at 10 killer or anything. I know a bunch of guys, some camera guys and stuff, got smoked at 10 killer in the Elite Series when they were out on the water, came back and all their stuff was gone.
Well, not only that, they broke windows out of about 4 or 5 vehicles at the Holiday Inn Express, you know.
Mm-hmm. So, the other thing that's interesting to me that I think co-anglers, so I've had, and I'm thinking back to the day, you know, we don't have co's in the opens now, but I can think of several. I can think of 2 co-anglers that have come back, and Matt Molitor kind of mentioned this with someone saying, "Oh, I've never been a fan of this brand of boat," right when they get into your boat with it. But I think that's also, you know, a lot of those co-anglers looking to get into their first boat, looking to step up in it, and it gives them a chance to get in a lot of different boats, see what they like, see what they don't like. Instead of just having a buddy say, I don't like this or I do like this, they can actually see how it fishes, how it handles, spend a day fishing in it. And I think a lot of boats were purchased, particularly back in the heyday of the co-anglers, by co-anglers who'd been saving up money, who got in a boat and said, I want that boat, after they spent a day in it, and they weren't planning on spending a day in it.
Well, as a boat builder, Matt, and that's all I've ever been, I really learned more fishing with guys because I would fish in their product. Mm-hmm. I learned more about their boats than I really learned about fishing. I got to know different things about the aspects of the boat. When you spend a whole day in a boat, and you watch somebody work around it, you know, I mean, you've seen my dissertation on tennis shoes and flip-flops and all that. You know how much I watch the way a person works in a boat. And it's a lesson of love, you know. You just want to be passionate about your game, and you know, that's different than being a steward of sport. This is learning about the competition, but it's really not the competition. I don't consider it that. It's learning about what's the good and bad aspects. You know, it's like reading a book by Sam Walton, and Sam's greatest foray was he would spend time in every retail store. And I kind of consider boats like that. You know, Sam would go to Kmart, go to Target. He would go learn what's working for Gibson's. And so I'm the same way about boats. I kind of want to learn how they run, how they ride, how they fish, you know, how does the tackle lay out. And so over the years in the draw tournaments, that's where I learned a whole lot of things and where our weaknesses were. And I consider it from a different standpoint. You're looking at it from a buyer standpoint. Well, from that standpoint, I've sold a heck of a lot of boats to my co-anglers over the years, and they bought boats because of the day we had together and how it went and the product. And some of them are friends to this day.
You mentioned tackle. Let's talk about ICAST. We're going to skip the break. We're just going to talk for an hour. Let's talk about ICAST. Unless you want me to run commercials, like occasionally I'll just have a show where I skip the break. One of them's a Bass Cat commercial, so we'll just say we'll save 45
I think we can
seconds
about that one. But.
Okay. How many ICASTs have you been to? Have you been to all of them?
No, I haven't done all of them. I've done a number of them. You know, they go back to Vegas. I didn't go every year. It wasn't a big deal to me to go every year, but I tried to go every other year the last several. Mm-hmm. I've actually done the last 3 or 4 in a row, and it's been a real transition. So I've done off and on ICAST over focused on the last 20, 25 years, you know.
There's been a lot of chatter that ICAST is losing its shine, I guess, or that it's not as valuable as it used to be. Now, remember, just for those of you who are listening, not open to the public. Primarily, what people don't realize is millions and millions of dollars in deals are done and solidified at ICAST that kind of culminate a year as far as what baits are going to be sold and what, from mom and pop stores all the way to big box retailers. It's an opportunity for smaller companies that you maybe not have heard of to get their foot in the door with some to kind of do it. So just because it doesn't look crowded or because of pure fishing wasn't there this year, doesn't mean that there's still not millions of dollars of business getting done there. That being said, that this is the second year that I haven't been to ICAST, and I didn't miss one from 2008 to 2024, Rick. I started to notice that shift in, especially, at 2022, 2023.
Oh, yeah. The post-COVID years, it was definitely a shift.
Yeah. But still, in your opinion, a valuable part of the fishing industry, ICAST?
Yeah, it's a valuable part of the fishing industry. I mean, I'd never fished the ICAST Cup, and that was something I wanted to do. So I drove down and did it this year. As you know, I had another mission in going to Florida that didn't work out the same way I wanted it, but I had a reason to be down there with a boat anyway. So I went and I decided to fish that Cup, and I was there anyway with a boat. And Linda rode along with me. She didn't go to ICAST. She rode along with my shotgun. So that worked out well, but you put 2,500 miles down in a week, it's kind of a run,
Mm-hmm.
And so going to ICAST over the years, it's a valuable part of the community, and it's really hard to get into ICAST as an outsider. In other words, you can't just go call, pay your pass. You got to have a reason to be there. 2 years ago, they didn't want to give me a pass, and I got there and I was kind of amazed at, we fixed that, but that was like, oh, are you kidding me? I try to do it legitimate, and of course they're trying to get boat companies to display at ICAST. The value of that's minimal. I mean, the ICAST has changed. The Fridays and the number of people that go in, the social media that comes in. I don't know that there's near the book of business that was written once upon a time. It's a lot less business than was done.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that business is done ahead of time. There are a tremendous amount of forging relationships with those businesses. They do get to see buyers. And I think that's important to them to see those buyers. I think it's a cost that's high. No doubt ICAST is like the Classic or anything else. It's a very expensive show. I mean, we did trade shows in the 70s and 80s with up to the 90s with MTech and Atlanta Boat Show and Texas Boating Trades Association, and going to Dallas. And we did 3 to 5 trade shows a year at the time, and usually 3. And those have gone away in our business because we've gone to in-house shows. Well, that's happened somewhat to a degree in the tackle industry where they've changed the way they do it. The tackle industry and the boat industry really don't cross over. It's just a totally different industry, It's the marine industry and the tackle industry are separate.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've noticed, I think there's a huge shift back into saltwater for a lot of the companies. So I did notice that more this year. A lot of the companies are following that role that one particular reel company and rod company has gone saltwater. I think more shifting towards saltwater. Freshwater seems to be the majority of the show, of course, and that's a big part of it. I would like to see more versatility booths, like an AFCO, cooler companies, and what's happened. I think there's more versatility needed to be at ICAST. It's I think we could do more clothing lines, more in accessory lines. Of course, the beatdown guys are there; they do their display, but I think we could do more along those lines. I was interested in some of the smaller booths because I've seen booth size go down to a more I'll call it a tolerable level, So I've seen booths shrink a little, and I've seen the quality of booths improve, I think, but the aura of a huge display is gone. So I think some of the smaller booths are actually better. They're more focused on business instead of a retail type atmosphere. And I think that's been good. I complimented Johnson Outdoors on their booth. I thought they did a really nice, clean job. They didn't put up the full display with the tank and the trolling motors and all that. They had a really nice, clean booth. And so it was clean. It was good to see some friends that came in the industry that were in the outboard industry there. But certainly, I think that ICAST is still a value. That's the answer to the question.
The other trend that I seem to have noticed for a good decade there, it was, I want to say, almost like shock and awe to try to get your product out there, and people go, what the heck is that? And then get your new product award. It seems as in recent years, the trend has gone away from, I want to say, outlandish stuff and more towards reasonable products. Did you notice that this year? Less, hey, this thing looks like a juvenile red-tail hawk, and the bass jumps up as it's getting a fish off, and now it's back to stuff that catches.
Yeah, it's wings flop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the mainstream products there, I saw I thought a lot of replication this year, same stuff over and over again. I think in the tackle industry, everybody wants to say this is new, but we've had Bastrix minnows for years, and Jerry Ray goes rat, and all that's been around for a long time. There's been some baits that definitely stood out. Everybody had a fuzzy minnow offering this year, whatever it was. Yeah. So everybody had something with rubber sticking out of it, and everybody had something with a minnow,
Which is funny because Tightline's UV has had their whiskers line, I don't know, 12 years, 15 years. They've been putting that silicone in craws and minnows and worms and all that stuff, and everybody went, yeah, that's weird. And now all of a sudden it's the exact same thing with all the other
plastic centipedes for decades, Matt. It's nothing.
Oh, I guess that is. Yeah, it's a centipede. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's really nothing new to me. It's just that somebody's throwing it and they're targeting fish,
Yeah.
But no, you had a lot of new stuff there that was not really new to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't really get into the product case to look at the new products. I did see some of the offerings. I was pretty excited, and I know this is probably not a sponsor, but I'm going to say it. Back a couple of years ago, the guys at St. Croix reached out to me wanting to know about laminates and schedules and all kinds of questions, and they wanted their engineers to come in. I said, nah, you don't need to come to us. And Jesse and I got to meet one day. We spent time in a boat one day with Shaw, so Jesse and I got to be friends. And, of course, Ryan runs our boat, so we got to spend time with those guys, Dan and everybody. But anyway, I said, no, you don't need to do that. You need to send that engineer here. And I hooked them up with a little Composites Expo deal that gets into, like, nanotechnologies and resins and the various carbons and all that. And I connected him, and he called and he said, why do you think I need to go there? I said, well, that's where you're going to learn something if you want to do something. And it was cool. I came into ICAST and I got a text from one of them, and he said, hey, you here? And I said, yeah, come by. I got to show you what we did. And so I came by, and of course he couldn't wait to show me what they had taken out of that show. They'd met a couple times with the company and been to a couple, and they figured out some things, and that Legend series of St. Croix is impressive. Mm-hmm. And it's got a graphene product on the outside with a different coating, and they've slow motioned it on the return on the rod, and they've increased the cast distance, and it's got the good guides on it. I mean, it's just impressive.
Yeah, they make an amazing high-end rod. Whenever I go up and fish with Travis Manson, Smallmouth Crush up in New York, he I don't know, he's probably got 65 Shimano St. Croix combos, and they're all like the high end with the composite and all that. And I'm like, dude, like, you realize you have like $70,000 worth of combos sitting on this wall right here? And he's just like, well, it's my job.
Yeah, that's part of it. But they do a good job. Of course, Shimano and Daiwa have a great upper tier line too. They do good on rods if you want to buy them. And of course, you can go back and get the real Gary Loomis stuff if you want to, the Edge stuff. But they're good products. And these guys, there is a difference in rods. You can buy base rods. You can get different rods that are made out of ground materials, laminate materials, but we go back here locally to Jim Burley, and Burley did a great job, built the first Falcon Caras and all over here at Harrison. Jim's gone now. I wish he was still around. Good rod builder. But anyway, that changed, but I thought that was one thing that was impressive, and just kind of bring up the new stuff. I mean, there were so many offerings going through there that were really just the same thing reproduced. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I felt like that's the kind of year it was.
Have you ever like gone to ICAST and seen a new product or a small company that you didn't even know existed, an accessory or something like that, and literally, as Rick Pierce from Bass Cat went, I want that in all my boats, and they didn't know, you didn't have a meeting set up, and it was a product that you found that then ended up kind of working its way into your line or anything? Or is there like another boat show, like an ICAST for boats that you go to for that?
No, there is like an ICAST for boats. That's called IBEX. It's the International Boat Exposition in Tampa. It's in, I think it's in October this year. So we go to Tampa for IBEX, and that's where everything in boats shows up. And yes, we do find things there. Usually it's the subtle little things from a small company like you mentioned. There's a lot of opportunity at IBEX. I'll tell you the one, and you know this, but you asked the question. So that is doing SEMA. I found so much stuff at SEMA, and SEMA was a big one. And I actually at SEMA, there's another show called Apex that runs alongside of it over at the other convention center over by the Sands. And dude, that's an amazing show. It's a lot of import stuff, and you can see a lot of cool stuff in those shows.
Fishing wise, you mentioned Leech. You're headed to Leech. It has been, in your experience, have you ever seen a weirder trail, which is this division of the Opens that we're fishing, that included your home lake in Arkansas there, Sam Rayburn, Kentucky Lake, and then the last one out of the four in Leech? In all your years of doing this, have you ever seen a trail as, not in a bad way, just as crazy as how it's turned out this year in it? Like, for context, there's supposed to be 9 competition days spread out over the 3 events. They front loaded them in February, March, and April. There's been 2 one-day events and then 1 3-day event. So 5 out of the 9 days. I've personally fished 4 days total through the 3 tournaments, and oftentimes forget that I'm even fishing the Opens. You're in the same position as me, Rick. You ever seen anything that crazy?
I am never fished a trail that's had so much silent controversy is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so much, I don't know, it's frustration, but Mother Nature threw us a curveball everywhere we've been.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like, we weighed in the lightning and thunder at the one day at Rayburn. We probably could have gone day 3 if they'd have held up. I'm pretty sure we could have gone day 3, but the forecast was ugly. And they basically, you've got to trust the weatherman. I've seen those days before. The first event we ever saw canceled was on Kentucky Lake, and the lake was pitch smooth all day, and the forecast was 45-mile-an-hour winds, which happened the next day at Kentucky Lake in that event, and that was ugly. But no, Kentucky Lake one day, it was the 3rd day of practice, and I was going, and Rick Klein, I'd kind of held out and was second thinking myself. Of course, you know yourself, almost nobody went out that 3rd day.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It was horrible. And I looked at Rick, he said, don't go. When Rick Klein says don't go, it ain't worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So Rick said, no, it's not worth it. And I respect Rick a lot. And I said, man, maybe you're right. So I didn't go. And then that afternoon, I was kicking myself in the tail because I didn't go. But
yeah.
I don't think I learned anything. I mean, I did what I wanted to do everywhere we've been. I'm not fishing for EQ points. I'm fishing to try to win, and I haven't found the right stuff and had it go together. I feel like I found the right type of stuff in one event, but it just didn't fall together. I mean, Norfolk was ridiculous. The water was coming up. It was a one-day event. We probably could have had day 2, but it was definitely not a good situation,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really disappointed in that event because we got that first day of practice at Norfolk, which is right there, Mountain Home, your backyard. Bass Cat rolled out the red carpet and then got smoked at the weigh-in with literally cloud to ground lightning all around, which I thought it was funny that like they were like, oh, there's lightning, let's pause the way while guys are out there fishing with graphite rods at the same time. But I think I saw the glimpse of it, like dumped the boat in on that first day when it was nice. Everything was stable. And I was like, dude, this is such a cool lake. Like there's so many different things you could do. You can fish your strigs. You can throw a big bait. You can finesse fish. You can get offshore. You can go down the bank. You can catch multiple different types of species. You had a lot of different forages in it. And then like by the time the end of the first day was there, it was just like kind of like a battle of survival. And then we sat around for 2 days, got evacuated with floods, and then went home.
Yeah, I think it was one of the worst conditions we've seen in this part of the country, no doubt. And there were a couple of guys talked bad about it, but you couldn't do anything about the weather.
I love that
for
lake.
For example, Miles had trouble getting east out of here. Everybody had to reroute because Hardy, Arkansas, all that over to Hardy got underwater, and we're high enough in most of our areas that we can get out. I know you guys had difficult things. I think you were down the river.
Yeah, we had to evacuate the White River. We had this plan to do all this YouTube and video and live stuff, trout fishing on the White River, and it came up like 17 feet in like 6 hours. That might be an exact, but I mean, it came up enough to where the neighbors started moving everything, and Berghoff sauntered over and was like, "So, what are you doing?" And they're like, We're getting everything so we can stay upstairs for like 4 days. And he's like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Yeah, you got about 3 hours." And we're like, "For what?" And they're like, "To get out or else you're here." So yeah, we got out.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenging deal. And, my farm, which isn't a farm, it's a deer farm, as you know. But anyway, it's where we keep the pets, and we feed the pets. But anyway, my barn is actually right across the road from where the service yard was. So that was a long drive for me. I really was looking forward to that event because, it's literally half a mile down the hill for me, and I thought that was going to be a good one. I felt really good about the event, and it just it was a lot of pressure in areas. What happened that one day is it just compounded everybody into an area. Casey was fortunate that he had been there during similar conditions, and he kind of knew which direction to go, and he was in the right area to do that. It was obviously a very crowded area that he didn't share that in anything, I don't think, but I'm sure it was crowded where he was at. And I'm pretty happy he did have a good day, but I felt like it was as good an event as anybody could get for that one day. And then all of a sudden it just fell apart because the water came up. So Norfolk went to 580.5 or 6, I think. It was the second highest, I believe, or third highest it's ever been. And they actually had to open the floodgates to retain the lake.
Wow.
So if they hadn't opened the floodgates, it would have run over the top of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they opened the floodgates to retain the lake. Bull Shoals didn't quite make it all the way up, but it was unique. We've had Rayburn, we had Kentucky that blew us off the water. The days we were on the water weren't good.
Kentucky Lake was the way that guys caught them at Kentucky was not reasonable assessment, like to the outside of how rough that lake was. I mean, the entire lake was one rolling 3-footer.
Yeah, it was terrible. And, the lake was down. People hit stuff. People knocked things off their boats. I mean, there were a lot of challenges at Kentucky. I mean, if you paid attention, you were all right. But, it was one of those areas where it could have been treacherous. And then the other thing is, because of the water conditions, it compounded and compressed everybody into areas. And no doubt, there were several of us fishing the same stuff over and over again, I went into one creek that I felt like wouldn't be that crowded, and golly, there must have been 20 boats in that creek,
Mm-hmm. It is what it is. A lot of boat questions here. I just wanted to have a chat with Rick about ICAST and everything that else was going on. A lot of the questions I've seen, you can go back and YouTube BTL shows where he dives into all sorts of the boat questions, but I kind of like just chatting fishing occasionally with you for a show. Mix it up a little bit, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. This one's a little different.
Yeah.
That was your goal coming in, so I hope we're achieving that.
No, we are. We kind of started the show, and I kind of want to wrap it up kind of on the same note about sharing the boat with other people. You have You have 3 days left to fish, and you can pick 3 guys. Doesn't matter what lake, not in a tournament, just pure enjoyment. If they're still around, they're still around. If they've passed, doesn't matter. Hypothetical question, Rick. 3 guys, 3 days on the water. Who are you picking?
Shaw.
I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I got Shaw Grigsby right here.
Yeah, Shaw's just a good friend, and I like fishing with Shaw. I like being around Shaw. He's just a beacon of hope and light. And Shaw's dad was a friend of the family, and Shaw is a friend. So I would say Shaw.
Did you know he was retiring?
Yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah, I hated to hear that. He's 2 years older than me.
No, but did you know, like, before he announced, it was like a press release that came out like the day before the tournament started, and I was like, whoa, didn't see that cut. Like, he did kind of no farewell tour, just a farewell derby.
No, he alluded back last year that he thought this might be his last year. He wasn't sure, so we talked about it about a year ago. But no, Shaw's one. I mean, there's a lot of guys I'd like to spend time in the boat with. If I could have it back, I'd like one more day with Guido. If I could have it back, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the one guy I always was mad, and I told Larry this. I was mad when he moved from Texas to Arkansas because I knew I'd never draw him because you can't draw in your home state.
I didn't know that.
In the old days. So when Larry Nixon moved back to B Branch, I told Larry I was mad at him. He said, we'll just have to go fishing sometime, and we never have. Now, both of us are older, and I think I have the utmost respect for Larry Nixon.
Yeah, but you guys both get around like you're 20 years younger. I think you guys could still – you guys should fish a team tournament together. You should jump in a local Arkansas team tournament. What do you got to lose?
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. But no, Larry said we'll just have to go, and we just never have taken the time. But Larry Nixon is one of my favorite guys, and I always respected what Larry's intuition was. And, you know, Larry Nixon fishing a worm is like Kevin Van Dam fishing a spinnerbait. You know, he just fishes things extremely fast. You know, Tommy Martin, same way. But I've spent time in the boat with Tommy. I spent time in the boat with Stacy. I spent time with a lot of guys, but no doubt about it, Larry's the one. And so you had 3 guys. Those are my 3 today. I'm sure there's others, but that's just coming off the top, and I'm sure I'm not thinking about somebody. I'll tell you one that I'll add the 4th in here that I'd like to spend time with. And I think, this is my personal opinion, had he picked a career in Bassmaster, I think this man would be every bit as good and as well known almost as a Kevin Van Dam. And he picked a career of FLW.
Wait a second. I want to try to guess this. Is he still fishing currently?
Yes.
Andy Morgan?
Now, Andy's a friend, man. I can call Andy right now and we can talk on the show. I haven't spent time with Andy, but I mean, I'd love to fish with Andy, but Andy's, you know, here's the deal about Andy. I don't know if you know this. When Andy fished Redman, which is BFL today.
Yeah.
He won the points one year. They had 6 events. They fished Chickamauga straight.
Mm-hmm.
How good was Andy on Chickamauga? He won 5.
Pretty good.
And finished 2nd in the other one.
But it's not Andy. That's not who you were thinking of.
That's not who I'm thinking of.
It's not David Dudley, is it?
I fished with David at Lanier.
It's not David Dudley, though.
No.
He seems like he'd be all over the map.
He is all over the map.
When
but
you're
he
like in a tournament.
Extremely hard. David Dudley works as hard as anybody in this business. Doesn't mean he gets it done every day, but he does work hard. David's dad worked hard. They're good anglers because they work hard. David always hard on stuff because he works hard. So the guy is, I'm not going to keep you at bay here.
Okay, let me know.
Brent Ayler.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Brent Ayler, I consider Brent. I think if Brent had spent his career if he'd have started with Bassmaster years ago, I think Brent would have locked in and done an amazing thing. And I think because of where he was at, FLW, people want to give it a lot of credit. And, yeah, there was a lot of good things FLW did, but it certainly wasn't, man, it wasn't the going to make a household name like Bassmaster did when it was in its prime.
Yeah, Brent Ehrler from 2007 to 2014 had 7 out of those 8 years top 10 Angler of the Year finishes.
Yeah. I think he's that good. When he was younger, I think he was that good.
And 14 top 10 finishes and 4 wins.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Brent Ehrler. He'd be my number 4, you know.
And over $3.5 million in earnings.
Oh, no.
Huh. I would not have guessed that one, Rick.
And that one surprises you because he laid under the radar, see?
Mm-hmm.
Man, a really good guy, works hard for people.
I'm not like a personal friend with Brent. I'm friendly with Brent. I've known him for a long time, but like I don't like call him up on the cell phone and chat. But every time I see him in person, seems incredibly genuine, interested, takes time to talk, looks you in the eye, shakes your hand, like just seems like a solid dude. And one of those guys also that you hear a lot of other guys say things like you say, talk about him behind his back in a good way.
Yeah.
So
I think he probably is one that he just, during the peak of his career, I think if he'd been on the other side, he'd been really well known, you know.
I like that.
Ish is a great angler. I think Ish is good. You know, you look at so many of them that are good, and then you look at the ones that are kind of laid out head, you know, and that's one that's laid out head.
Dude, I'm not kidding, Rick. You and Larry Nixon, Tuesday nighter, roll up to Norfolk. You get him on a Texas rig. I know what you like to throw at Norfolk. I won't say it. You got that 1-2 combo. You might get the big bite. He'll fill the limit out. You come in. Honor, glory, prestige, spending money. Big bass and first has to be at least $500.
Yeah, I'd rather just go with Larry for the fun of it, dude. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a competition. Everything doesn't. Yep.
Yeah, and Shaw, I did have Shaw circled. I wanted to get your take on that because he had been around for so long and then announced that. So I'm glad that right off the hopper.
No, Shaw's is a really good. You know, I picked the phone up to call Shaw. I called him before we went to the ICAST Cup, asked if he's fishing, you know, and we tried to get together to go to Paul Elias's. Paul Elias got Hall of Fame induction in the Sports Hall of Fame, Mississippi, and we couldn't get together to go get a table and go over there. Neither one of us could make it to Paul's induction ceremony. We wanted to, just couldn't put it together. Too many conflicts. Yeah, Paul's a good guy. I mean, there's so many of them, Matt. So many.
Yeah. So when I covered the FLW tour early on, I always could tell from half a mile away. I'm like, oh, there's doing it for Bass Zone. So we did a photo gallery every day. And it was the easiest guy to find was always Guido because he was in for a number of years. He was in that like yellow boat and then the full sit down. I'm curious, has he always been a sit down fisherman or was that just like a knees deal and earlier in his career he was stand up?
I never fished with Guido when he sat down, and I've drawn him plenty. And I've drew Dion too, you know, but Dion and I fished together at Beaver. But no, I never drew Guido when he sat down. Use a butt seat, yes. Sat down, no.
Yeah, he was full sit down. Like I vividly remember like watching him, you know, physically watching him fish. Yeah, this is what it looked like right there. There's old Guido hooked up, probably on a Guido bug.
Yeah, that's when he was running a wrap boat.
Just Bill dancing it up there on the front.
Yeah, it's Guido, you know, most people don't know. Guido gets the nod for being a great sight fisherman. Shaw gives him benefit for teaching him a lot about sight fishing. And he was really good at sight fishing.
Shaw helped teach Guido how to sight fish?
No, Shaw gives him the nod.
Oh, Guido helped Shaw learn how to sight fish.
Yeah. That's where Shaw really first kind of caught on.
I didn't know that. And that's because of the Ozarks and the cleaner water. And that's kind of where Guido and then obviously Dion and then that whole family lineage that you have there. But cleaner water, really good sight fish, a lot of different species up there. Teaches Shaw.
Yeah.
Obviously
So
does it in
Guido
Florida.
we got to know Guido when I was a pup. In 1977, he won a BCA tournament on Lake the Ozarks, which he guided on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Guido fished an event I fished there in the 70s, and that's how we met Guido years and years ago.
It's been a full decade since he competed and then passed away, Guido. But what do you think he would if Guido came back and looked at the front deck of an average professional tournament now and saw all those spinning rods and all those worms and all those little compact jigs? Back in the day, like he was like one of the only guys that was doing that. Like he was the finesse guy. Like I bet he would be like, "Oh, you guys finally figured it out."
That's exactly what I think he'd say. That's it. You guys finally got smart, huh? But now, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people don't understand Guido. Guido was one of the best jig and grass fishermen there was.
Grass?
Yes.
Did not know that. There's no grass in the Ozarks.
No. Well, there used to be hydrilla at Lake the Ozarks, pretty strong.
That's news.
Yeah, it was very strong. It's not now, but it was pretty strong in the upper arm there that they had. You go into the gravel, and there was hydrilla there years and years ago, and he was good at grass fishing. But he was good at New York. He was good at Guntersville. He was good at Rayburn. He was a really good grass fisherman. Nobody gave Guido enough credit for the quality of a grass angler he was.
Yeah. Bassmaster Class. I mean, he's done everything. AOYs, classic champs, wins, great career with bass, great career with FLW, and then obviously passed it down too.
Yeah, and you got Lawson and the kids coming in there, and Dion still trying to play the game, and but I don't know that they'll ever do what he did and Dion's opportunity. I mean, that's not saying they're not good anglers. That's not my point. Times are different now, Matt. We've made this game a very athletic game to a degree. The kids that are good today, I've said this on BTL before, they're good. You take some of the young ones, I think I have a lot of respect for Brandon Polnick. All right. A lot of respect. Good friend, I think. And the game is really, you look at the health of a Brandon and where he's at and how he's come in his career. He's in transition like a lot of them, and these youngsters have really changed it. And you can look at Chris and Corey and say they're coming into their own now, but they, how many people can stand on the front of a deck like Johnson did up there at Ontario on 1,000 Islands on the north side over toward Canada, fishing in those 3 and 4 footers? How many people can do that?
It's standing on the front deck of the boat to me is like playing hockey. You have to be on your skates consistently for years, just like you have to be in those conditions on the front deck for years to build up the muscle memory, to build it up, to be able to do that without thinking or taking your mind off of it. And the guys who make it look easy, make it look easy. It ain't easy.
Yeah, and I'm not the hugest fans of the Johnson brothers, but you got to give them credit.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have a chance to clean sweep the river. I mean, you got Chris with the Invitational. You got, I think, Corey and his dad just won that 1,000 Islands, the bait fuel tournament series open up there, which was like just off limits. And I think Corey's fishing the open this week on 1,000 Islands. I believe so. I haven't seen a roster for it, but I think where that took out of on the Canadian side, he was able to just stay in the lake, not fish the river, which is off limits. So then they flip flop. Then he does that. They won $100,000 last week on it, clean swept
180, yeah.
And 20 for Corey and 80 for Chris. So there's 100, and now there's a chance that I would say better than a chance that if Corey is in that open that. And I was just also talking with this with Miles, like it's hard to win on that river right now by 8 pounds. Like that is like the equivalent of winning like a largemouth tournament by 20, because there's just not that discrepancy, and those fish are so tight, and I mean ounces matter so much. mean, a 7.5 pound victory, that's blowing the field away on the St. Lawrence.
Oh no, and there's no doubt about it. Coming out 1,000 miles in St. Lawrence and smacking them like that, it's amazing. Yeah, and that just shows their dominance in it. But there's been dominant people before. You know, that whole thing. You know, I'm going to go back to Dick Garlock, and I doubt you know who Dick was.
You've mentioned him on the show before.
Yeah, Dick was responsible for the diving rule why we can't dive, because he used to dive in practice, you know. But Dick was strong up there. You know, Dick was that dominant up there. And people, you know, of course, the times have changed. You know, you have zebra mussels, you have gobies, you have all the things now. You know, I was amazed years ago. We went up there and I pulled a piece of grass out over by Chameau, and I counted this piece of grass had 13 zebra mussels on it.
Yeah, that'll clean it out for one piece of grass.
Yeah, and so I mean, I looked at that and I'm like, golly, how can anything? It's just a changing environment with what's happened up there on an invasive species.
Yep. All right. Well, I got to make sure that I get this Mustang back, Rick. And pick up the truck.
And be careful. Don't curb it on the way home.
Don't even say that. I'll tell you what. One thing I have noticed. So, like with my truck, you see like just a ill-fated raccoon or bloated possum, or especially the ones that are terrifying are the armadillos. You know, just feet straight up in the air, bloated. Well, in my truck, that doesn't even, you know, you just drive right over them. But I'm like 3-4 weeks into this Mustang now. Like, you try to drive over an armadillo in the middle of your lane with the Mustang, it's like hitting a bowling ball, I would assume. I just know that, like, I navigated around a couple dead dillos, and then I got back to my house and was looking at it, and I've got, like, you know, that much clearance on the front, and I was like, I'm snow plowing anything that's dead in the road with that Mustang.
Yeah, it changes your driving habits a little.
Yeah.
I like to rent Mustangs. I like to rent Challengers. You know, if you can get one, they're fun cars to drive. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that you'll enjoy it. Get rid of it and go on. Get your truck.
Here, this is Jeffrey's Mustang. Can you hear it?
You got the GT Thumper. So I tell you, Matt,
look at that thing.
There he is crawling out.
He said it's a race car.
Have to crawl out of it, you know.
Oh yeah, well he's like 6'5" too. Can't feel half of his leg.
You have to unroll him out of it. Yeah.
You get in that. I sat in it, just like sucks you down into it.
At least it's got a trunk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why have the bass boats never had like those racing style seats like that? Like, you know, like you get into that, like the Mustang, and it's more like kind of why have the bass boats always traditionally across it been more benchy and fluffy?
So
instead
right now you're sitting here teed into me, right? Don't move. Don't move. What part of your back's touching your office chair?
My lower back.
That's right. You never touch the top.
Okay, that's a fair answer.
You don't use the top of the seat in a bass boat.
Yeah, it's a good answer.
You use the bottom of the seat. You use the haunches, your haunches where they sit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you use to sit in a seat. You don't really use the front of your legs other than they position your haunches. So to answer the question on seating is a lot different. People picture it in a boat, because you could make the seat technically the size of a Cub Cadet tractor seat if you made it right. A lot of people like big exotic seats, and they're pretty, and yeah, they'll sell your wife a boat. But
great point, Chuck, too. You're also going to have a life vest on too.
Yeah, you do have a vest on, and I do wear a vest, but usually your vest is in the upper part of your back no matter what, you know. Yeah, and a lot of guys have gone to the SOS type, you know, the blow-up type. Mm-hmm. I'm not a blow-up fan. I don't know if you know that or not. I'm a full jacket fan.
So, like long runnings, opens, most of the time full jacket fan. Tuesday, Wednesday nighters, hopping in with my buddy or doing that in the middle of the summer, I'll wear the inflatable.
You're more apt to injure yourself on a Wednesday night, Tuesday night team tournament than you are in a organized Bassmaster Open event.
Just because your guard's down?
Because your guard's down, you're having fun, people run over you, you're in a much less challenging situation because the people aren't as skilled in some cases. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, they're not as much time on the water. They tend to do crazier stuff because they're showing out for their buddies. I've seen more incidences come out of little bitty team tournaments on a Tuesday, Thursday night jackpot than I have an organized event.
We'll end it on a really interesting viewer comment. He said, check out the documentary All Too Clear. Super cool doc on the Great Lakes and quagga mussels. And then I found it online, and there's like just, a little teaser to it, but
All Too Clear. Yeah, that's one I'll have to kind of write that one down myself here.
Yeah, it's nominated for the Canadian Screen Awards, so I'm assuming it is from Canada. Hold on.
Yeah. That'd be a cool deal to watch.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, I see it.
I would be all in on that. I'm big on those. I mean, now those aren't like very technical, but the drain the lake stuff that's on like Discovery, where they're like, now we drain the lake of Lake Erie to see the tectonic plate, and then you like drain it, and you're like, oh my god, I fished that ridge.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll never forget years ago, Ed Whaley and I had dropped a control box or a gear case, and he had dropped a control box or a gear case. One dropped one, the other one dropped the other, and we put together everything in one boat, and we went and practiced one day, Ed and I, and we ran across a flat up in the bay, and I think the name of that bay was Bass Bay, I don't remember, but up across from a lighthouse and over across from a ferry. And we were back in that bay, and all of a sudden we drifted along, and I'm looking down, and there's an anchor. And I'm like, wow, this anchor is probably 50 foot long, you know. I mean, it's huge. It's more than the boat width. And, I mean, it was huge. And, I mean, how did an anchor get in 5 foot of water up here? You know, it's just crazy stuff.
All right, I know you're a busy man these days. Not as busy as you used to be, but you're still busy.
I still stay busy, very busy.
I hear you. I'm going to let you go, and always enjoy our quarterly chats on BTL, Rick.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt. And I mean, that one was a little different. I hope it was good. Hope everybody enjoyed it. That's important. I got to leave you with one thought.
Hit me with it.
We talked about speed and boats. My whole family, all my kids and my wife have been 102 in a boat. Leave you one thought. And I said, well, we're going to do it because you may never do it again.
Yeah, you got me by like 20 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
But right. We'll do it. But anyway, that's one thing I wanted them all to have in their little dossier. They could say they've done it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
So we had fun. But anyway, it's been cool, Matt. And you know, ICAST was good. I hope we go back. I hope we have a good one, and hope everybody continues to attend.
All right. Thanks, Rick.
See you, bub.
The one and only Rick Pierce. He says that documentary, All Too Clear. That's TOO, 2 O's there. Yeah, he said the doc might not be available in the U.S. yet, but it will be soon. It was a 3-part documentary. Let's cue up some music here. Big shout out to Rick. Always enjoy having him on. That's all we got for today. Some cool things coming down the pipeline that I'm hoping to finalize this week that we then can announce next week on Bass Talk Live. That we'll see how it goes. In my head, and in the conversations that I've had with the other people and companies that I'm working together, mainly one company with, this is a slam dunk, a home run, top shelf, whatever sport you want to choose for your comparison. But this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We will talk to everyone later. See ya.